much. Thank you for coming back. It's a pleasure to be with you again. It's really feel very privileged and very thankful to you all. Very thankful. So we'll do the I think we should do the prayers. Now, Michael, you're the host, but I can actually just I'll just do the prayers because we're not going to do a whole lot of prayers. But I've got the prayer book here that we were given, and I'll just get to the basic prayers. We'll just do a few, and then we'll do a bit of just stabilizing meditation on the breath, and then it will go into the formal sort of thing and all that sort of stuff. So I might just I'll just share that. Yep. Where are we? Taking refuge. Good. That one. Yep. Cool. Okay. Can you see the prayers there? Maybe just. Okay. Good. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. So we start by taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. Then we'll do the mandala offering and just a few prayers just to set the motivation. Okay. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all transmigrating beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Now we just do the outer and inner mandala offerings. This ground is blessed with scent and with flowers strewn, adorned with Mount Meru, the four lands, sun and moon. Transformed as a pure land and offered, may all wandering beings enjoy this Buddha land. All those objects of my mind's three poisons, coveted friend, foe and stranger, body, wealth, worldly pleasure, without a feeling of loss, I surrender. Receive them, please, and free all beings from their bondage. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniya Tayami. Now, the Heart Sutra. I mean, we could do that if, but we'll just say we might go down a little bit more to the foundation of all good qualities. I think this is very important because the foundation of all good qualities is a Lamrim prayer, and it Lamrim text, and it contains the entire path. So from beginning to Buddhahood, including Tantra. So really special. Lama Tsongkhapa wrote this. And then the first few verses really deal with the topic, what we're talking about here, okay? So the foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to them is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon them with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Please, finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful to abandon even the slightest negative action and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So that first section where we stop there is to do with the what we call the small scope. The small scope is of the three scopes. There's the small scope, medium scope, and great scope. So the small scope being has the motivation to mainly just higher rebirth, for higher rebirth. So they still have attachment to samsara, but want sort of higher rebirth. Now, higher rebirth that's fine. I mean, we need higher rebirth so we can continue our progress to enlightenment. But the small scope person has the motivation to achieve that higher rebirth as their sort of ultimate goal. And I think from my discussions with other sort of people and other learned people, I'm just wondering whether that sort of lower scope is a bit akin to like going to heaven, like in some of the Judeo-Christian teachings. I wonder whether that lower scope is similar to that. Good. Yeah, and Michael, you put something in chat about the chirp practice. Yeah, offering your body for the good of others. Yep, that's exactly right. We offer your body for the good of others. So now this is the lower scope. Now these practices in the lower scope, if we do them, then we will attain higher rebirth. And if we go back to the top of that, just to quickly go through them, the foundation of all good qualities. The foundation of all good qualities, first of all, is the guru, the kind and perfect guru. So we need a perfect guru, a Mahayana teacher who can teach us the path. So that's the number one qualification. In the second verse there, understanding that this precious freedom of this rebirth. So we have when they say precious freedom, that's really specific, because this life that we've got now, all of us in this room today, we've got a really special life with the 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. And they include being born as a human, being born with intact sense faculties, include being born in a place that has sort of freedom in particularly religious freedom, where we can study whatever spiritual philosophy we want. And you've had the opportunity to meet the Dharma, meet the Buddha Dharma, and to meet Buddhist Dharma teachers who can teach. And you've had that innate wish in there to do that. So that's what we say with this precious freedom of this rebirth. So it's greatly meaningful and difficult to find again. So there has so much potential. We have so much potential. So please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. So that leads into the next subject. How do we generate a mind that really wants to take advantage of this precious opportunity? And then we go into the next verse, which is, this life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. So that's where we're at the moment. That's what we're studying at the moment, where death is definite. The time of death is indefinite, is uncertain. And then the only thing that helps at the time of death is your cultivation of the mind, the minding, the mind of virtuous qualities that we've generated. Nothing else benefits. And after death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So that means that the only thing we take to our next life is our karma that we've created. So we generate karma in this life that fruits at death and takes us to the next life. And with that comes all our karmic baggage with us. So we just want to make sure that the karmic baggage we're taking is really good. It's top shelf stuff, the best stuff. We don't want to be taking, unresolved issues, unresolved, angst, pain, relationships, hurt. We want to be taking forward to the next life the mind of love, the mind of compassion, the mind of bodhicitta, wisdom, patience, generosity, all those minds. And then that's where we're up to in this text. Remember, this life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. Okie dokie. So having said that, there's already been a bit of talking, but if we've got a couple of chat messages. Yeah, good. Death Without Fear, that's that one by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. There's also another one called Ultimate Healing. Ultimate Healing. That was it's been around for a while, and it's really, really good. And it's actually based on one of the first healing courses that Lama Zopa did at my center at Tara Institute in Melbourne back in the 1980s, I think, or the 1990s. And he just did a very select group of very sick people, and he did a healing course with them. So it's called Ultimate Healing. It's really beautiful. And then since then, he's developed the process a bit. And that's what we're going to be adopting when we do the healing group here. So thank you for those chat messages. But now I think, like all of us, we've been busy and running around, and you guys, you're at the end of your day, so you're getting a bit tired probably and got too much clutter in your mind. So with your permission, I think we'll just do a few minutes of basic meditation on the breath, and just focus on the breath. Clear out all those other thoughts out of the mind. Just focus on the breath, and then that will just make the mind a bit calmer and a little bit a bit more stable, so that we can deal with the subject matter and all that sort of stuff. So we'll just just get into like a simple meditation posture, just sitting quietly. And just for 5 minutes, we'll do some basic breathing meditation in and out of the nostrils. Just just remembering the breath coming in and out of the nostrils. And that's all we focus upon. So we'll do this for just 5 minutes. Okay, you can just like cease the meditation, and we'll begin the class formally now. Good. So I suppose firstly, how is everybody? Yeah, I love getting feedback from people. How's everybody going? Has anyone got any questions or comments that they'd like to make about anything? In what we've covered or what's come up in your lives? No, okay, yeah, cool. Because it was very interesting. Last night we were doing this class, a similar class to this, and there were people in the audience talking about their experiences of bereavement, etc. And it was amazing how many people had bereavements very, very, just recently. So, it's common. Just about everybody does. Everyone's had a loss. Everyone's had a grief, and so had an intimate experience with death and impermanence. Now, let's have a look here. So, in terms of where we can go with this, there are different outlines we can use. I'll stop the sharing now. Stop sharing. Oops. Hello. Yeah. So I've got the outline now on this session that let's see. The outline on this session is we now on the third session where we're talking about the disadvantages of not remembering death, the disadvantages of not remembering death. Sorry, that's my computer making all those noises. I can't stop it, but it'll hopefully stop making the notifications in a minute. But the third session, the disadvantages of not remembering death. So that's something good to discuss. And then I'll just bring that up, and then we can talk about, because one of the comments from the class that I was doing last night was, why on earth isn't it a bit depressing meditating upon death? I mean, why would you meditate on death? It was sort of, well, it was one of the comments, why would you do it? And we briefly spoke about some of the advantages of it, and then the disadvantages. So, and in the curriculum here, the next step is to talk about the disadvantages of not remembering death. So once again, I'll share this now. The disadvantage, here we are. So I suppose, can people see that now? It says the third session, the disadvantages of not meditating on death. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, so, right. Let's just go through them, and then we'll have a little discussion about it and see what resonates with you. I mean, we're all different. Everyone's different. This is not prescriptive. Some of these will be relevant. Some of these won't be relevant. So, really, we're just giving what's in the text. That's all. And in particular, the text we're mainly utilizing is so this is the text we're mainly using. It's called Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. So that's the text we're using by Pabongka Rinpoche. So Pabongka Rinpoche lived last century, very famous Tibetan Lama, a reformulator. He was a resynthesis. He did incredible things. And he was the teacher to the tutors, the Dalai Lama's tutors, and he re-established a lot of the lineages, so shall we say. But anyhow, his book Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, which is produced by Wisdom, is awesome, and it's not a light read. I think you measure it by kilograms, but it's a couple of kilos of solid reading there. You can work out with this and just do your exercises. It's really multitask with that book. It's good. It's a good solid read. So but it's got everything about the Lamrim path in it, and it's got everything about these meditations came from it. Okay, so the 6 disadvantages of not remembering death. Okay, Now, the first one is you will not remember the Dharma. So maybe can I ask you people, what is the Dharma? Can you tell me what the Dharma is? Anybody? Or put it in chat, I don't mind that. But yeah, what is the Dharma?
I would say, Ellen, that the Dharma is the teachings that the Buddha handed down to us.
Yeah, that's really good. So we have the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the Buddha was the teacher, the Dharma was what he taught, and the Sangha are the spiritual community of supporters, like the ordained monks and nuns and all that sort of stuff. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So totally agree with that. So the Dharma is what was taught by the Buddha. That's a really good way to look at it. Any other sort of other aspects of it?
I would say that it would also incorporate, yes, what he directly taught, but some of the things that he indirectly taught that have been developed, for example, under the different traditions, some of which have been passed down to us verbally, and some of which has been passed down to us in written, and some of that some combinations of the two.
Sure. And direct experiential teachings, I think you might be talking about. And yeah, and for example, some of the other teachings were very hidden. For example, a lot of Buddhist tantric teachings, they were they were really exclusive to a certain group of teachers, of students, and not included in what we call the Buddhist Canon. I suppose we can say the Buddhist Canon, which are the books that we traditionally use. Yeah, so that's right. So it's a Buddhist teachings, and they're the written forms, the experiential forms, the oral traditions, the meditative traditions, all those. It goes on and on and on. And in fact, there's about I was once told there's 20 in Tibet. The Tibetan word for Dharma is chö, chos. And there are 21 definitions for the word chö or Dharma. Now, for example, one definition is phenomena, just literally phenomena. Okay, so that is a phenomena. Most spectacles are a phenomena. They're not particularly holy in any way, but they're phenomena. So chö or Dharma, well, we wouldn't call it Dharma, but we call it phenomena. So that's another way of looking at you. And there are all sorts of different ways of understanding it. But in our context, we're talking about Dharma as the teachings of the Buddha. Okay. Now, there's one other way to look at what Dharma is another definition of it. It means that which holds. So that which holds. Now, so what does it hold? It holds us up from falling to the lower realms, or holds us up from falling into samsara, holds us and protects us. So it's that which holds or lifts us up, or that which protects us from falling down into the lower realms, into suffering, or into samsara in general, which is like cyclic existence, the continuous cycling in rebirth after uncontrolled rebirth. So you will not remember the Dharma. So that's it. Now, have you ever heard of I mean, in terms of existence, are people sort of aware of the cosmology of Buddhism? You know, like different realms and different types of existences. It's because it gets a bit kooky. Yeah, okay. Oh, well, it's like there's hell realms. There are preta realms, which are the spirits. There's the animal realms, which we know about, human realms that we know about, and then there's the godly realms above. And then the godly realms are often divided into the jealous gods and the higher level gods. And then that's in the desire realm. And then we have above that the form realm and the formless realm. The form and formless realms are states of pure meditative equipoise, where living beings abide in meditative equipoise. They're free of the desire realm, which were those first groups I described, and they just abide in meditative equipoise. The form realm abides in meditative equipoise and has a body. The formless realm abides in meditative equipoise but does not have a physical form. So they're formless, no physical form, but they're living beings abiding in meditative equipoise. Now, interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Now, the humans are the best because although our lifespan's very short, we have the ability to understand Dharma and everything, and we have the ability to contact teachers. And because our lifespan is definitely, we're going to die, and we'll die uncertain, and at any moment it could happen, then we're motivated to practice Dharma. Now, if we look at the God realms, and people do aspire to that, and even as we talked about, maybe the Judeo-Christian, other sort of religions aspire to the God realms. Now, they are not permanent states of freedom from suffering. They end. They have an end. Now, that end could be eons. It could be eons, but at the end, there's an end point. Now, because their lifespans are so long, they do not remember to practice Dharma. And it said only in the last 7 days, and their days, I don't know, are probably worth a decade. One day of theirs is probably worth a decade of ours. I don't know, but everything's relative. So let's say in the last 7 days, they start experiencing the signs of death. And it said in those 7 days, they experience more suffering than living beings, other living beings in their whole existences, because they feel intense regret that they now realize that death is coming, and then they're clairvoyant and they can see where their next life is going to be, and which is downhill, because they've used all their positive karma. All their positive karma is gone in the luxurious lifestyle. There's nothing left, and they haven't reaccumulated it because they've just been too consumed by the pleasure that they're involved in. And so those last 7 days, their body, for a start, for the first time in their life, they have body odor. Yeah, in those realms, they don't have body odor. They don't have to wash. They don't have smells. And their body starts to get a bad odor. They wear flowers. They have garlands of flowers that adorn them. And those garlands of flowers never wilt. They never rot. They never do anything. And the garland of flowers now start rotting on them. And then their body starts to change. And those changes, and we age gracefully, so we gradually get wrinkles and flabby and all that, but suddenly they start to change, and then all their relatives, all the other gods see this, and they know this person's going to die, the person's dying, and they shun them, and they're alone. For the first time in their life, they have visible signs of aging, their body odor, their body starts to change in a way that's scary for them. They're completely isolated. They can perceive their next life. And because they've never remembered to practice Dharma, the intense regret, fear, panic, and it's just so tormenting, so tormenting. So that's the God realms. That's the highest level of what we call cyclic existence. So cyclic existence is cycle, going round and circles, taking rebirth after rebirth, and the God realms are the highest. Now, even they, after their lifespans of eons, they haven't remembered to practice Dharma, and so that's where the tragedy comes. Now, we've got the opportunity in our existence, because death is definite, because the time of death is indefinite, and the only thing that helps at the time of death is Dharma practice and the karmic potencies we've created on our mind, that we actually remember death all the time. I mean, just do you guys watch the Queen Elizabeth's funeral last night? I don't know in the USA whether you're that fond of Queen Elizabeth, but yeah, we did. We're an ex-colony too. We know about Britain and the royalty. But anyhow, it was quite moving. But even somebody like her, who is like a god. I mean, she's like a god on our planet, a godly realm. Even that godly realm, like the the Queen of England, with everything, fantastic wealth, fantastic influence, and very highly regarded, and all those sort of things. She still had to die. Now, she's very religious, and maybe her Dharma, her Christian Dharma, will sustain her and go to a good rebirth. So, but for us, we don't quite have those privileges of a queen. We won't die, draped in jewels and crowns and everything. We'll be probably largely forgotten a week or two or a month or two after we've passed, and that will be our destiny. That'll be our destiny. But what we can leave now is if we remember to practice Dharma, then we'll transform our mind. We'll transform our mind and make this brief life incredibly meaningful. So in this brief life, we can attain Buddhahood, and that can be done. People like Milarepa did that. Milarepa was a Tibetan yogi, but he was a mass murderer. He got, his mind became influenced by black magic and a mass murderer, but completely transformed and became a fully enlightened being in one life. So we can do that too in this life. But we have to, first of all, we have to remember to practice Dharma. Then the second one is, even if you remember the Dharma, you will not practice it. So that's procrastination. Procrastination is our greatest enemy. It's a horrible enemy, because we put off doing the inevitable, what we need to do. So we need to practice Dharma, but then we come up with excuses. We say, oh, it's too late. In America now, it's 8 o'clock at night. I'm too tired. I'll think about practicing Dharma tomorrow. I won't go to the Zoom meeting with Thupten Nobuling tonight. I'm too tired. I'll catch it tomorrow on YouTube or something. So that's you're putting little risks in between that things won't happen, and but the procrastination. So procrastination, which is a form of laziness. Procrastination is a form of laziness. So number 2 there, even if you remember the Dharma, you will not practice it, because procrastination believes there will be a tomorrow. That's it. Procrastination believes there will be tomorrow. In this whole discussion, we've got to sort of stop that. Where we have to stop it. We have to say, no, there may not be tomorrow. It may only be now. There's today, there's now. So tomorrow, forget about tomorrow. There's only today. Now, the third one here is, even if you practice Dharma, you will not practice purely. So what does that mean? That means that, there are gradations how we can do things. Now, not all of us are ready to become monks or nuns or yogis who live in a cave in Nepal or the mountains of the United States or the desert lands in Australia or wherever. No, we're not meant to do that, but we can practice Dharma purely, and we can practice Dharma impurely. Okay, for example, for me, okay, here I am, I've been asked to teach. So I can say, great, now I've got the label teacher, and this can be used to fuel my ego. I can say this could be fuel. Oh, great, my reputation, great. I am now a teacher. That's great. I've got people listening to me. How wonderful. I must be really great. I must have really wonderful qualities. And then I can, tell other people about that and gain some reputation. And that's the practice of Dharma that is impure, because what it's doing is just feeding my pride, my ego, my vanity, and the afflicted mind. So that's impure practice of Dharma. A pure practice of Dharma is to do the same thing, but to do it with a mind of like compassion and a mind of just generous giving without hope for reward. Maybe even a mind that hopes, oh, great, I'll be criticized, sort of that'd even be better, because then if somebody criticizes me, then I can develop patience and learn about myself. I get free psychotherapy that way. When people criticize you, they give you free psychotherapy. Don't have to pay anybody. They just pick out all your faults and give you plenty of stuff to work on. So you'll not practice purely. Okay, the fourth one is your practice will not be persistent. So, okay, so we listen to the class tonight. We think, okay, I'm going to remember to practice Dharma. I won't procrastinate. I'll do it now. I'm going to do it purely, and that motivation will last for 24 hours, and then it'll peter out, and and then a day will go by, another day will go by, and then it'll be the Zoom class. You think, oh, gee, it's I've got the Zoom class tomorrow. I better start practicing Dharma. So you read up and do some of the meditations that we've covered, and you think, great, I'm buoyed up again. Do the Zoom class again next week. Great, enthusiastic. I'm going to practice Dharma. I will remember the Dharma. I will remember to practice it. I'll practice it purely, and that'll last another 24 hours, and then it'll peter off. And then that cycle in life. And we do get inspiration from teaching and being together with Dharma people. Well, we get inspiration, but that inspiration is not enough to sustain. So we have to have our own practice. So we have to have our own practice that we get some benefit from. And really, the only thing that will make your practice persistent is, well, faith. Faith is one thing. And faith is not just a blind faith. Faith comes from having experienced benefit and logically reasoning it. So if we practice Dharma and we get some benefit, maybe we become less angry, we become less desirous, we become less proud, our relationships start to improve. If we're getting that benefit from Dharma, then there will be great motivation to continue doing it. For example, I remember one of my friends, he was married to his wife. His wife was not Buddhist, but he was Buddhist. And I asked him once, well, how come you're always here doing these weekend courses and these retreats and everything? You know, why is it? What about your wife? She's not a Dharma person, not a Buddhist. How come she lets you do all this stuff? And she says, Alan, it's because when I come back from these courses, she says to me, you know, Bob, you're so nice when you do those things. You're so nice. I really want you to do them. Please keep doing it, because when you come back, you're a really nice person. And it fades. I mean, it fades. So then you have to do another course in fact. So it's a little bit, but you hope that, you know, it's sort of, instead of being this, you hope that it sort of just becomes a little gentle ripple rather than, you know, tsunami waves. You hope that eventually you actually become a nicer person. And then then you're getting positive feedback. Oh, this is working. It's working for you. Your relationships improve. You don't get as angry as much. You find things are easier in life because you're not having to fight for things anymore. So that you have to get something back from Dharma. It can't just be, oh, I'm doing this because I want to have a better rebirth. I mean, that's okay, but it won't really sustain us in the stuff we have to deal with every day. Yeah, the conflict, the fear, I mean, the tragedy, death, bereavement, the grief. They say it won't sustain. So we have to get something back. Now, the fifth disadvantage of not remembering death is you will create many unwise negative actions. Okay, so this is really important. And so why does that happen? Is because we know we've got this perfect human rebirth with all its wonderful potential. But death is certain. It's going to die. We don't know when. And we know that the only thing that's going to help us is our karma that we've created, like the virtue we've created and the negative karma we've purified. So why create more baggage for us? Why create more negativities if we're just going to have to carry that into the next life, and that could influence our next rebirth? So we become more mindful and we become more attentive of what we're doing. So those two mental factors, mindfulness and what we call alertness or attentiveness, mindfulness and alertness, that are two mental factors that keep our mind on virtue and be aware when negative minds are evolving. So mindfulness and alertness, mindfulness and alertness. In Tibetan, it's drempa, tang shizing, drempa, shizing, drempa, D-R-A-N-P-A, and shizing, S-H-E-S-Z-H-I-N. So it's a drempa, and shizing. They're the two mental factors that keep our mind controlled, so then we don't create negative actions and only create positive actions. So that's the disadvantage of not remembering death, that we do create many unwise negative actions. The other thing is when we don't, when we don't think about death, we lose the prioritizing of what's important. I mean, what is important? Is it important that I really have that argument with my neighbor? Okay, they leave their lawn clippings on my garden when they mow the lawn or when they sweep the lawn. Or is it really important, in the context of death? Is it really important to have that, to push for what I want with my spouse and to try to get what I want in the context of death? Is it really important how I look? Do I really have to spend that extra money on cosmetic surgery or this. Is it really important to do this? And then when we reprioritize things, then we realize that, oh, look, at those things are not important. I can reprioritize. And so maybe those actions that are negative just lose their importance. They lose their relevance. They lose their relevance. They lose their importance. And what's really relevant and what's really important is what prepares me for the next life. So very, very important. Now, the last one here is you will have many regrets at the time of death. You will have many regrets at the time of death. So the mind, that mind at death of this life, so the last moment of this life, that mind that we have at death will ripen a karma, and that karma will take us to the next life. Now, at the moment, we've got millions, trillions, impossible number to count karmas on our mind. Now, a lot of them have the potential to take us to a next life, but only one will ripen at the end of this life. And that karma that ripens at the end of this life is predisposed to our mental state when we die. So if at death we've got a very confused, angry, regretful mind, then it'll be a very negative way to die, and that will ripen negative karma or an unfortunate karma. And then that means our next life could be very unfortunate. Whereas if we have a karma at death, we die without any regret. We say, I've lived my life. My life's been beneficial. I've benefited myself, my spiritual practice. I've benefited others. I die. And also the other important thing is I've sorted out my financial affairs. So I don't have to worry about, all those things I've worried about in life, my money, where's it going, everything, given away as much as possible, and particularly given money to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, because that creates virtue, given to my family, loved ones, give it to charity, whatever, give away, so that there's no regret of having to leave stuff behind. I've resolved the issues I have with my family, with my friends. I've apologized. I've made amends. So at death, there's not the regret of I wish I'd told my daughter or my son how much I loved them, or I wish I'd told my brothers and sisters that I forgive them for what happened, or I wish I'd told this person. So none of that regret. We try to resolve as much of that stuff as possible, so that baggage we get rid of, and that comes from understanding death. So without understanding death, we'll have many regrets at the time of death. So that's a tragedy of it. That's a tragedy of not remembering death. We'll just regret, just like those God beings, for an eons, uncountable length of time, they were living a life of pleasure. But in those last 7 days, the amount of suffering they undergo is just so relentless, because they have this intense regret. They can understand so clearly with their clairvoyance what they could have been or what they could have achieved, but instead they wasted it, and that's because they did not remember death. So we don't want to do that. Now, the reality is, I live in Australia, you live in the USA. We are living a sort of God realm compared to Sudan, compared to, Ukraine at the moment, compared to Pakistan, where 30% of it's underwater. You and I, we are God beings. Imagine if we had, 300 years ago, we told people, oh, we can fly in aeroplanes. We can go under the water in ships. We can sail across the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, in, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, maybe 5 days or a week. They'd say, somebody 300 years ago would say, you are gods. You are gods because only the gods can do that. Now, we take it for granted. We take it for granted that I can see you across the world and talk to you and have a relationship with you across the world instantaneously. We're gods. We're gods. But who knows in 300 years what we'll be able to do. But maybe we won't be able to do this. 300 years, there won't be the planet as we know it at all. But at the moment, we are living this God-like existence. So remember death, and then we will die without regret. Okay. That's a lot of talking. So I need to have a drink, and I would love to hear some comments from you people. And you please don't agree with me. Please don't agree with me. Michael.
Alan, did I understand right that despite all of the plethora of good actions and good intentions and bad actions and bad intentions, that you said that there's only one karma that I have that will ripen at death that will lead to my rebirth?
Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. It's complex, and I can't. Now, Barbara will get to you in a minute. I'll just, it's really, karma is complex, and as a non-clairvoyant being, and as a pretty ordinary sort of person, I can't explain it. I can't tell exactly. I can only tell you what I've heard and what I've read from other teachers. Yes. So at death, there'll be different sort of karmas. So in our first class here, I think we looked at the 12 links of interdependent origination, and then the 12 links, and they go, and then it goes 8, 9, 10, craving, grasping, and existence. Now, existence then leads to rebirth, and then rebirth leads to aging and death. Now, existence is the karma, that one karma that ripens from the process of the 12 links to lead us to the next life. Yes, so there is one karma, but that's the ripening, that's a propelling karma, or the ripening karma that takes us to a new existence. Now, there are other karmas. Okay, for example, in your country, there are karmas to be, born as a human. Okay, you're born as a human. But look at you've got 300 million people in your country. Look at the different circumstances that karma, that ripening karma to be born as a human, has flung people into. Okay, so you could be born as a human and be the child of some Beverly Hills movie star and lead this incredible godly, you'd be a godly existence. You could be born as a human in your country, but born to a really poor family that don't have much at all and suffer. You could be born as one of these undocumented people who live in insecurity and fear. You could be born as you could be born, black. You could be born as Puerto Rico, Hispanic. You could be born as white. You could be born as all these sort of different people, which all face different challenges and different sort of issues. So we have the ripening karma that propels us to the next life. And then we have all the ancillary karmas that bring with us the circumstances that with it of that existence. So one of those circumstances would be how much wealth you've got, how much, or do you live in wealth or poverty, how healthy your body is. Are you healthy or unhealthy? How long your lifespan is. We have a short lifespan or a long lifespan. So all those, so karma is complex, but yes, there is one karma that propels us to the next life. And so we really, 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 really want to make sure that death, and maybe we can go through, hopefully in our curriculum, we can go through the death process, and we'll understand how once death starts to occur and the bodily functions start to shrink in and the gross consciousnesses stop working, we're left with very subtle minds, very, very subtle minds. And those subtle minds become subtler and subtler until there's just like the clear light of death. And if we at that clear light of death can remember love, compassion, bodhicitta, the mind of bodhicitta, and the wisdom realizing emptiness, the ultimate nature of reality. If we can remember that, then Bajinka, everything, the next life is assured. Or we can remember the guru, remember the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the triple gem. Remember the guru, remember the ultimate nature of the Buddhist mind. Then that takes us to the next rebirth. And then we can prepare too. So look, it's really interesting. Okay. I mean, we've got I could keep talking on this for hours. Sorry, please tell me if I get boring. Okay, so what causes that karma to ripen at death? Okay, there are a lot of things. One of them is proximity. Proximity to death. Okay, so for example, if you were in a fight with somebody and you're really angry, and they stab you, and then you stab them with a knife, and they die, and then but you're angry, you're satisfied, you've killed them, and you did it out of malice, not to defend anybody. You just thought you'd kill somebody, and then you die, satisfied with that anger and that violence you've created, then that's proximity. That's what I mean. So you have a proximate, so it's proximate, then there's death. So you do something proximate, and so that has a great potential. And you know that. For example, if you go to bed at night and you've just had an argument with your wife or your husband, what's sleep like that night? It's awful, isn't it? Because it's proximate. You're not thinking about the argument you had 10 years ago. You're thinking about that latest argument. Now, positive things are really good like that too. For example, the yogis and practitioners will maybe do intense purification as they die, and do self-initiations, purify their tantric vows, take their bodhicitta vows, and then re-establish, confess all their negativities, so that as they remember the kindness of the guru, remember Lamrim, remember death, and remember virtue, rejoice in virtue. So then that's proximate. And then they die, and so that proximate karma just continues. So proximity. Then so that's one factor. Another factor is the force of it, the force of a karma. So for example, if I'd, in that analogy, I'm fighting with somebody, I kill them and I'm rejoicing in killing them. And it's a very forceful action to kill. And I not only kill them, I torture them and I murder them slowly and painfully to gain revenge. Then that's a very powerful action. And so that power of that, even if it wasn't just then, even if it was the day before, week before, year before, if I'm still rejoicing in that incredibly powerful negative, and a bit like Vladimir Putin in Russia, I mean, doing atrocious things, and there'd be people, rejoicing in that, but that incredibly powerful negative karma. So we do have to feel compassion for those people who are doing such atrocities, because they're rejoicing in negativity, and they'll probably continue to rejoice in that negativity, and they may die doing that negativity, these soldiers and that. So they may die, and it's really powerful karma. And so there's proximity, and then there's power. Then there's repetition, how often you do it. For example, if you're an abattoir worker, or if you rejoice in shooting, like sporting shooting. In Australia, we shoot ducks and other wildlife, etc. And you just do it. And you do it once, you do it twice, you do it 100 times, 1,000 times. Then that repetition makes it stronger. Now that holds for non-virtue and virtue. So if we have repetition in our Dharma practice, if we have repetition in going for refuge, that's why we say the refuge prayer 3 times. It's repeating it. We keep saying it. Once we've said it 1,000,000 times, it might click, but we just don't say it once, say it 3 times. And we say it theoretically, we should say it 3 times a day, 3 times a day. So it's just repetition. So repetition brings familiarity, and that locks us in. And that helps at the time of death. So it's proximity. We want to make sure at the time of death, everything's peaceful for ourselves or for somebody we're with. We want to make sure the virtuous minds arise, and powerful virtuous minds, and that they continue repeating. We continue repeating those virtuous actions right up to the time of death. So that's something. And then there are other things that help at the time of death. For example, a guru's intervention. A guru can transform our mind, transfer our consciousness for us. But we need to have a very close relationship with a guru. So a guru can intercede and transfer our mind by the thought of that relationship and their power. So that's another type of way. Okay, sorry. You click the on button and I can't stop. I don't have an off button. Sorry, I'm really sorry. Now, let's say who was first? Was Barbara or Erin first? Okay. Well, we'll go to Barbara. Could you please? And then unmute yourself and please.
You just answered many of my questions during your dialogue. So thank you for that. But I still have a lot more.
Oh, please, yeah, come on. This is perfect. I've got all the time in the world. You guys got to go to bed. I'm just waking up, Please.
I understand that clinging and grasping at the time of death will lead us to be born in the hungry ghost realm. Am I correct?
Yep.
Anger in the hell realms, ignorance in the animal realm.
Yep.
I know the words of what I need to do to get another human rebirth, but I keep going to like, how much is enough? how much focus now, how much practice now is enough for when I'm actually dying for it to be front and center.
Okay, good.
And
Okay.
then another question I have is how do I don't know what the things are that cause me to go to the God realms.
Okay. Okay.
And then one more, and then I
Yeah.
won't ask anymore. I'm aspiring to go to Amitabha's Pure Land.
Fantastic.
And,
Yeah.
and if you could talk about ways to help me get there.
Sure. No problems. Sure. Okay, good. I'm
Thank
just
you.
writing down. I'm just writing down your questions. Okay. Good. Okay, excellent. So how much is enough? Okay, how much is enough? That's sort of really hard question. It's a bit like how much money do you need to retire or something? Well, how long are you going to live for? I mean, my business partners, I bought out their business and they'd retired at the age of 65, and one of my business partners was dead 2 years later, and then the other one died about 3 or 4 years after that. So how much is enough? It depends on how long we've got, I suppose. That's what. So I suppose I'd ask you, Barbara, how long have you got to? And you can't answer. We can't answer, can we? Well, how
No,
long
but
have
I
you got?
but I can say, Ellen, that I came to the Dharma late in my life.
Yep.
So it's not like I've been practicing in this life. Like it's
Yep.
not like I've been practicing for 20 or 30 or 40 years.
Okay.
And then the other thing I wonder about is to get this incredible precious life that I have, was I maybe a monk or a nun last life where that's really all I did to get this life?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, you that was your second question. What are the causes for the upper realm? So we can talk about what the causes are, and there are specific causes. So how much is enough? There's never enough. There's never enough. So whatever lifespan we've got, well, we utilize it. Now, what you're doing now, at this point in time, by listening and thinking, you're obviously thinking about this. You're changing your mind, and you're creating the causes for a perfect human rebirth in the next life. So doing this is a cause for that. And how much do you need? You need more. Just keep doing it. Because after a while, you develop what's called joyous effort, which is delight in it. It actually becomes delightful. So it's actually really delightful to practice Dharma. At the moment, we have a delight that, going to the pub, going to the hotel, drinking, partying, getting home late, having a hangover. That's delightful. But really, when we start practicing Dharma, we realize that's actually just incredible suffering. So the real delight is in doing virtue. So the more delight we have, the more virtue we do, and the more causes we create. Now, the causes for the upper realms, I think this was your second question, is the main cause is moral ethics. So moral ethics. Now, moral ethics has many different permutations, combinations, and subtleties in it. I mean, so you mentioned the monks and nuns. Well, the monks and nuns have 300 vows that they take. Okay, and that's one thing. Now, lay people, if they want to take vows, we only have 5, like to not kill, not steal, not lie, not engage in sexual misconduct, and not take intoxicants. So that's the lay persons. Now, and then in between there are other sorts of vows, and then we have tantric vows, we have bodhicitta vows, we have refuge vows. And then there's the vows. That's types of morality, and then there's simple. The more common way we look at moral training is avoiding the 10 non-virtuous actions. So then there are 10 non-virtuous actions when we avoid doing those, we're practicing morality. Now, moral ethics in all its permutations and combinations, the definition of morality, and this is probably what we should know. This is one of the take-home messages. What is morality? What is moral ethics? Moral ethics is the mind of restraint from doing harm. So that's really important. It's the mind that restrains from doing harm. It is not a rule book. It is not a catechism of you must do this or you must not do that or you'll go to hell. No, it's restraint from doing harm. So it's a conscious effort. So for example, I'm walking outside on the footpath, on the pavement, and there's a line of ants crossing the pavement, and my foot's about to land on them, and then I say, oops, no, I'm going to step over them. So I step over them and I consciously avoid killing the ants. I've made a decision. So that's moral ethics, because I've consciously decided not to kill, not to harm. Okay, now I'm walking down the pavement, and then I'm totally distracted. I'm on my phone, I'm texting, and I'm walking, and I come to the line of the ants and I step over them without killing the ants. That's not moral ethics, because I haven't consciously made that decision to avoid harming them. I didn't kill the ants, but that was purely by chance. So that's not moral ethics. So moral ethics has to have the intention of not harming. And what is Buddhism? Buddhism is a religion or a philosophy of non-harming. So if anyone ever asks you, what is Buddhism? Buddhism is a religion of non-harming. So that's really, really important, non-harming. So that's the main cause for upper realms, moral ethics. Then ancillary to that is generosity, patience, joyous effort, the other perfections we call concentration and wisdom. So the perfections, they help. And then finally is dedication, dedicating the merit. So pure prayers, pure aspirations. And this is where we come to Amitabha Pure Land. So we have a pure prayer. I've done this. So you guys have made the effort to do this class. When we dedicate at the end, I dedicate the virtue, the merit I've created, that in the future I may take in higher rebirth, and particularly may I take rebirth in the Amitabha Pure Land, the Amitabha Pure Land. Okay, so you make that, and then so reborn in the Amitabha Pure Land. So that's aspect, and then that will act as a cause to attain rebirth in the Amitabha Pure Land. For example, if you said, look, I've done all this virtue and I've done these classes, and I really need to, I've got a really tricky divorce I'm going through, and all the virtue from this, I wanted to get me through this tricky divorce. Okay, great. That might work. You might get through the tricky divorce, but then all that virtue is then gone because it's been dedicated to something short term. Whereas if we dedicate this virtue we've created to a long term, Amitabha Pure Land, or liberation, or nirvana, or in full enlightenment, then that effect will continue until we achieve that goal. So aspired. So the three causes of a higher rebirth are moral ethics, that's a principal one, the other perfections, and then finally pure prayers. So they're the three ways to get a higher rebirth. The three ways: moral ethics, the other perfections, and then pure prayers. Now, the Amitabha Pure Land, that's really cool. I'm just going to look at my book here. I just want to see if it's got anything about it here, because there are prayers. There are prayers to go to the Amitabha Pure Land. I'll just be 1 second. How much time is this practices? What to say in touch with Amitabha? I'm sure there was something. What's was it? Let me say.
Ellen,
yeah, sure.
Number 66 is specifically.
Number 66, which is where? It's number 66, what? Hello? Have we lost somebody? Hello? 66. Start the King of Prayers off the line. So I'm still here. I don't know if you guys are, but here we are. Born the blissful realm of Amitabha Buddha. Hello. Okay. So in this book here, okay, page 335. So I don't know whether you can read that. Is that sort of, oh, wait a minute, stop here, stop, so wait a minute, stop here. Okay, stop. Okay. Is that sort of recite the prayer to be reborn in the blissful realm of Amitabha by Lama Tsongkhapa. Okay, so that's on page 334 and 335 of this book. Is that upside down? No, I don't know. Anyhow, can you read that? Is that sort of readable? No. No, I don't know. Anyhow, it's in this book. Page 335. Okay, so there's recite the prayer to be reborn in the blissful realm of Amitabha Pure Land by Lama Tsongkhapa. See also chapter related to Dharma. Oh, there's quite a bit in this book about Amitabha. Okay, now there's have you ever heard of the Nyungne, the Nyungnes? Ever heard of Nyungnes? Okay, who's done a Nyungne? Anyone done a Nyungne? Okay, Nyungne is a fasting meditation practice where we spend a lot of time meditating on Chenrezig. And Chenrezig is of the lineage of Amitabha. So Chenrezig is of the lineage of Amitabha. So by doing the Nyungne practice, we're directly creating the causes to be reborn in the Amitabha Pure Land. And I think it's said that if you do 8 Nyungnes in a row, so there are 2 days each, so it's 16 days of work, so 8 Nyungnes in a row, then you create the definite cause in the next life to be born in the Amitabha Pure Land. That's what I've heard. You create enough merit to be born in the Amitabha Pure Land. So there's all sorts of ways to get to the Amitabha Pure Land, but it does rely on those 3 basic things: the moral ethics, the practice of the perfections, and then pure prayers. And you would do some of the prayers like that prayer to be reborn in the Amitabha Pure Land by Lama Tsongkhapa, something like that. So that's it. Yep. And so well, Barbara, tell me, what's your perception of the Amitabha Pure Land? Why do you want to go there?
It's my understanding that unrealized people, that's an option for them, and that the other Pure Lands are for more higher beings.
Okay.
Did I have that right?
Yeah,
and my understanding is that you will become enlightened.
Yeah, in a Pure Land, Pure Land's not really part of samsara or psychic existence. Yeah, and you're directly with the Buddhas, and you only hear Buddha Dharma, and you only practice Buddha Dharma. Yeah, so I think you're right. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, cool. Well, I hope you get there. And when you get there, don't forget about us, please. Don't forget about me and the other people here.
And could you tell me, how do you spell Nyungne?
Nyungne, okay. Nyung, then NAS. Nyungne. NYUNGNAS. Nyungne.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Now, Erin, you had your hand up for a long time. Sorry.
Well, you all answered my questions. I had the question about the difference between the God realm and the pure realm. So I think.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Well, what do you think the difference is? What do you think the difference is between a God realm and a pure realm?
Well, one of the things that I just heard, I believe, is that the God realms are still in samsara, and the pure realm is beyond that, and you're there with the Buddhas receiving teachings, and you can get enlightened there.
Yep.
Would there be anything you would add to that?
No, I think you're right. Yeah. So the God realms are still part of psychic existence. And then in the Pure Lands, and there are many Pure Lands, as Barbara said, and different people have different predispositions. So different people have different predispositions. So I suppose, like we mentioned about Milarepa, who was the mass murderer who then became enlightened. I mean, he has a Pure Land of Milarepa. There's a Pure Land of Milarepa where Milarepa is manifested as a form of a Buddha. But obviously the people who go there are those who are really connected with Milarepa and have a great, wonderful, like, karmic connection. So people who have a really intense karmic connection with, like, the Dalai Lama or Chenrezig or Tara, because Tara is part of Amitabha as well, then highly likely go to the Amitabha Pure Land. And then, whereas to go to some of the other other Pure Lands, yeah, as Barbara alluded to, have to be probably involved in those specific practices to go there, like some of the Dakini Pure Lands, Kadru Pure Lands, etc. Then you have to practice those practices, and that creates the causes. But the Amitabha Pure Land is I think you say it's fairly open for business. Maybe that's what we say. It's ready to. It's fairly open for business, so it's ready to go. So yeah, cool. Anybody else got any? I'm loving the questions. The questions are great. Because we do have to do some meditation. So we'll do that in a minute. Now, the meditation, according to the curriculum I've got here, is the uncertainty of the time of death. So,
before we begin, there was one more question.
oh, who was that? Oh,
Kim.
Oh, Kim.
Um,
Oh, hello, Kim. Hello.
I'm gonna unmute, sorry.
Hello. Yeah, we'll sit. That's because you're in America. You're sideways, you know.
Yeah,
Hello. Now you're there. Hello, Kim.
okay. I was just wondering, is it possible to reach liberation without having taken the tantric and the Bodhicitta vows?
To achieve liberation, yes. For example, the Hinayana schools, they do not take the tantric vows. They don't practice tantra. They don't practice bodhicitta, and yet they become liberated. So yes, you can attain liberation without taking the tantric vows and without taking the bodhicitta vows. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Thank you.
But the question is why would you want to do that? I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, and that's so. We talk about the Hinayana path and the Mahayana path, so the lower scope and the great scope. So, and look, lower. It seems a bit demeaning to talk the lower scope and the great scope, but it's not to put anybody down. But what it means is that the lower scope has a lesser goals and lesser aspirations than the greater scope. So we're Mahayanists. So a great scope. And so our aspiration is for complete Buddhahood, to achieve complete Buddhahood. And then our objects, why are we doing it for? It's all living beings. It's every sentient being, not just me, it's for every living being. Now, so I'm becoming a Buddha for the sake of all living beings. That's a Maya. Now, if we just go for individual liberation, which is sort of like the Hinayana or lower scope goal, then the goal is lesser. It's not full enlightenment, it's liberation. It's still liberation from samsara. So it's an incredible goal. But, and then the object is just one person, me. It's just me. I'm going to liberation. So I'm leaving behind my mum, my dad, my kids, my family, my friends, my society, and I'm just going to achieve liberation. So one person, a smaller goal, whereas Mahayana, all living beings, and a massive goal. Now, I suppose that's a decision we have to make. And there are many traditions that just go for liberation. That's fine. I mean, it's wonderful, incredible aspiration. So it's still a good thing to do. It is said that those living beings, the arhats they're called, the arhats who attain liberation, stay in that state of liberation. But one day, the Buddha will waken them up. The Buddha will waken those arhats up. And then they're going to have to start the Mahayana path. And they start the Mahayana path at the bottom and have to work through the Mahayana path. We're at the bottom already. So they become our classmates. So, okay, put it that way. So these arhats, these liberated arhats, are suddenly in I don't know, we call it prep school or early learning, or, before you go to school, grade 1 or 4, whatever class 1, and there's Buddhahood. So the arhats have to come with us at grade 1 and start the Mahayana path, and their progress will be slower than ours because we haven't experienced liberation. We haven't experienced that bliss of liberation. So they will be continually experiencing that bliss of liberation and won't redevelop. They'll have more obstacles to developing the love and compassion that we will naturally experience, because we're just normal human beings experiencing normal human emotions. So we'll be quicker. We'll be quicker and to achieve full enlightenment. And they will have to start at the base. But they're fully liberated. They're liberated from samsara, but they will have to start at the beginning of the Mahayana path and work their way up. So it's I suppose in terms of getting bang for your bucks, the best investment, go for Mahayana from the beginning, and then just hang in there, keep going, keep slugging away at it, and then just keep going.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Pleasure. Now, the meditation we have to do is on the uncertainty of death. So I'm just going to we should meditate on the 6 disadvantages, but now we're just going to meditate on the uncertainty of death. And once again, going to refer to the big book, Liberation in the Palm. We're on page 349. So thinking about the uncertainty of death, we'll do a brief meditation on that. So the first aspect of this meditation is the lifespan of people on our southern continent is very uncertain. So we've already spoken about that, how uncertain it is. So now we meditate on how uncertain lifespan is. The second reason is that there are so many factors that favor death as opposed to life. There are so many more factors that favor death than life. So we can go through all the factors. And just think of this morning, we got up, you had your breakfast. Okay, had breakfast. Okay. The breakfast could have killed you. I mean, or the breakfast, you might have choked on it or something like that. But even the breakfast you have, if you eat the wrong sort of foods, that can be poisoned. So food can be poisonous, especially if you eat the wrong foods. If you're a diabetic and you eat lots of sugar, then that's poisonous. If you've got other health conditions, cardiac disease, renal disease, food can be poisonous. I saw one guy today and he'd broken out in this horrible allergy. His whole face was swollen and his body was swollen. And something he'd experienced had just flicked a switch on his body and triggered this enormous allergic reaction. So maybe it was something he ate, I don't know. Or maybe it was a virus. I think it might have been a virus. So it's little virus, tiny little virus can kill you, as you know. So the second reason is there are many more factors contributing to death than towards your life. Even medicine, even if we give medicine, that should contribute to life. But as we know, if we give the medicine can cause side effects or it can cause real damage if not, and that can be unexpected, totally unpredictable. And then the third one is that this body is actually very fragile. This body we have is very fragile. So how fragile our body is. For example, you imagine we're walking down the street and we cross the road and a car hits us. Okay, so here's the human body, flesh, here's the car, steel, metal, solid, 1.5 tons of metal versus 80 kilograms of flesh. And then, what happens to the flesh? That the flesh is just destroyed. So car versus human is not a good outcome. And why is that? Because the body is so fragile. So the body is so fragile. It just needs the slightest thing to go wrong, and then we suffer terribly. So, and then the reason why we meditate on the uncertainty of death is to get rid of procrastination. So we say, because I'm going to die at any time, at any moment, then I must practice Dharma now. I'm getting rid of procrastination. So there are four steps in this meditation. The first step is that this lifespan is uncertain because in this human existence, there is no certainty of the lifespan. And we can go through all the types of human existence and animal existences too. There's no certainty. Although when I brought this up last night, one of the people in the audience talked about euthanizing their dog. And she said, well, actually, we did know when our beloved dog was going to die because we euthanized him. So, yeah, man, That's one way of getting certainty, I suppose, euthanasia or suicide or something. But for the rest of us, we don't know when we're going to die. And then there are more factors favoring death than life. And then the third one is that the body's so fragile. And then the conclusion we come to is, I shall practice Dharma now. I won't delay it. I'll practice Dharma now. So just four little steps into meditation. But this is something we should do every day, and something I do every day. Meditate on death and impermanence, and it's good. It's very, very good. So that's by familiarizing yourself. So we'll just, because we are sort of running out of time, we had some great questions, thank you. And I've just kept talking, and which is not so good, but anyhow, can't stop. So we'll now do this meditation on the uncertainty of our lifespan, and then we must then use that to eliminate procrastination. Has anyone got any questions before we start? Nope. Okie dokie. Cool. Good. Okay. Okay. So just become comfortable in your chair or wherever you're sitting. Just do a couple of breaths in and out to clear the mind. Okay. So now we start meditating on this body, this life we have. How long it will last is totally uncertain. This life we have is totally uncertain. The first step is that in this existence, we call it in the southern continent, lifespan of humans and animals is totally uncertain. Could happen any moment. So just examine the entirety of existence and see if that's true. Is the lifespan uncertain? So the second aspect of the meditation is that there are many more factors that promote death than that promote life. So there are many more factors that promote death than promote life. We can look at even one day, all the things we've experienced, and so many of those things can harm us or kill us, and so few actually promote our life. final aspect of this meditation is the body is so fragile. So just meditate how fragile the body is. All the different parts of the body, how fragile they are. And now the conclusion is, why do we do this meditation? Is to avoid procrastination. I will not procrastinate. I will practice Dharma, and I will practice Dharma now. Immediately. I will practice Dharma now. No procrastinating. So meditate on removing procrastination. Okay, that's the end of the meditation. So we can just relax and keep that thought of those wholesome thoughts in the mind. So, so that's let's have a look. Now, we'll dedicate our merit in a minute. I just want to get that prayer up again. Amitabha Power. Oh, look at that. Good. Oh, look at that. That's very good, very good. Okay. Good. So in this book, there's a whole lot of interesting practices for people to become at death time. It does talk about the Nyungyas. There's one here too. And then there's an Amitabha Poa. Oh, good. This is very interesting. Poa means transferring consciousness. So in that book, in that book, how to become. There's also we can talk about the Amitabha Poa, which is a transformation, the transference of consciousness. So request a Lama to practice Poa, transformation of consciousness, and to Amitabha Pure Land. So that's pretty cool. You can do it yourself too, but you have to wait till you're dying. It's inauspicious to do it before death. You can transfer your consciousness, but you're not allowed to do it till you're dying. Otherwise, you're sort of like killing yourself. So sort of carried out in the case. So I just actually, what I'll do is we'll do the. I'm going to dedicate to merit, but we're going to dedicate to so that I'll read this out. This is the prayer to be reborn in Amitabha Pure Land by Lama Tsongkhapa. Nama Shri Guru Manjugoshya. I prostrate to Amitabha, leader of humans and gods. Through compassion, you always see each transmigrator as your own child. Remembering you just once leaves the fear of the Lord of Death far behind. May your eminent activities for transmigrators be glorious and without end. The Buddha praised the Supreme Buddha field many times in an excellent manner. Moved by compassion, various prayers were composed, mentioning the potential to be born in Sugavati, which is the Amitabha Pure Land. Being obscured by thick ignorance, not knowing what to do, adopt, and what to discard, the weapon of anger deprives me of the life of a higher rebirth. Through the rope of attachment and craving, I am bound to samsara's prison. Carried about in the ocean of samsara due to karma, wandering through the waves of suffering of sickness and old age, entering the mouth of the terrifying sea monster, the Lord of Death. Buried under loads of unwanted suffering, helplessly tormented with an anguished voice, I make this prayer from my heart. As witness to my yearning mind, my guide and soul friend, Amitabha, draw me out of this miserable state. With respect, I also make requests to your retinue and to the Bodhisattvas, Avalokiteshvara and Vajrapani. Please don't forget the commitment of your supreme mind made over immeasurable eons for our benefit. And just as the king of birds flies through the sky, the path of the gods, please come here by your miraculous power and compassion. Wow. Cool. So we're going to all be born in Amitabha Pure Land together. Well, that'd be fun. So let's we better be sensible now and do the dedication prayers. What are the dedication prayers? So anyone, we're going to just dedicate, and so anything to say? I mean, I want to say how much I enjoy being with you for a start, but do you people have anything to say? Hello, Barbara. Yeah.
I think a lot about death and the things that we meditated on. And part of me gets it, and still part of me thinks it's hypothetical.
Yes.
And I don't know how to make it less hypothetical.
I totally understand, and I think everyone, quite a few people are nodding, and I think you're right. How to make it? Just got to keep working at it. Just got to keep working at it. Just got to keep working at it. Whatever works for you, you just have to find your path. But studying the Lamrim, the stages of a path is probably the best way. But otherwise, just keep thinking about it. Do the prayers to Amitabha. The other thing is to ask your guru for inspiration. Meditate on your guru or Amitabha or Buddha, and ask me to bless me, to inspire me to understand this. Now, when you ask for help, the Buddha, it might not be nice. It might be that you have to confront your own mortality directly, or somebody else's mortality. Maybe you need a really stern lesson. It's like these people, like they want to give up smoking, and you tell them to give up smoking, you have a heart attack, you have a heart attack, you have a heart attack, give up smoking, you have a heart attack. And then eventually they have a heart attack, and then they give up smoking. Or an alcoholic, you'll end up on the street, you'll end up on Skid Row, you'll end up, losing your family, your wife, everything, your job. This will be a disaster. Stop drinking, and then they end up on the street. They end up losing their job, their life, their family, and then they stop drinking, and they can become quite wonderful people. They can become wonderful people. So, Michael, I think you said you work in drug and alcohol rehabilitation. I'm sure you've met some wonderful people who've cascaded through that tragedy, but through that tragedy become a certain type of enlightenment. And so it's never too late. Is that, Michael, is that your experience? Or yeah, okay. So it's time to go. So we'll just do the dedication. I'll share the dedication prayers briefly. Where are the dedication prayers? Yeah, good. Okie dokie. And then, so the dedication prayer to achieve Buddhahood or to achieve the Amitabha Pure Land. Due to this virtue, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigrating beings without exception to that state. May the precious supreme bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Then we'll do the next one. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. We'll just, actually we'll do the prayer for His Holiness's wishes to be spontaneously fulfilled, because if we aspire to Amitabha Pure Land, we're aspiring to fulfill the Dalai Lama's wishes. So Saviour of the land of snow, teachings and transmigrating beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And most importantly is our guru, whoever your guru is, but Lama Zopa is like my guru, the FPMT guru. He's our guiding light now. So you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving and spreading Manjunath's very victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honouring the three sublime ones, saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. Okay, so you guys, please live long. Please come back next week. Otherwise, I won't have a job. I'll get fired. And then I hope you've had some benefit. And
Thank you so
bye-bye.
much.
Thank you. It's been
Thank you.
wonderful. Been
So much,
wonderful.
Alan.
Well,
So
thank you.
helpful. Thank you.
Bye.